Hello and welcome to this episode of the Corecast. I'm your host, Chris Harris, and I'm a certified Pilates instructor and personal trainer. I've been working in the fitness industry for the past 17 years, training clients and teaching group exercise classes. I wanted to share with you some of the things that I've learned. Today we're going to cover breathing. To better understand the importance of good breathing, I wanted to share some interesting facts. Did you know that if the lungs were spread out flat, they would cover the size of a tennis court? There's many folds and sacs in your lungs to maximize their internal surface and allow for maximum intake of oxygen. That's needed to grow and nourish the cells that make our body and keep us alive, in exchange for carbon dioxide and other waste gases. About 70% of that waste is eliminated through the lungs by just breathing. And the average person breathes the equivalent of 13 pints of air every minute and takes about 17,000 breaths a day. The natural rhythm of inhalation and exhalation promotes rhythmic micro-movement in the body, which helps release tension, promotes blood circulation, stimulates the flow of spinal fluid, and also makes all sorts of body movements more efficient. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to explore the process of breathing and how it's an integral part of the movement of Pilates. In fact, it's one of the 6 Pilates principles we discussed in our Pilates podcast 101. In this episode, we're going to take a closer look at breathing, the benefits of deep breathing, and the difference between some breathing patterns, diaphragmatic and lateral breathing, and the different variations of breathing that are used in Pilates exercises to help move the body or stabilize it, depending on the purpose of the exercise. So we're going to start with the benefits of deep breathing. There's many quotes by Joseph Pilates, but one that is simply put and accurate is, breathe in the air and out the air. Conscious breathing improves the efficacy of movement, and it also enhances relaxation, increases focus, improves respiration and circulation, and can lower blood pressure. By practicing different styles of breathing, can improve the mobility in the thorax and strengthen the muscles associated with breathing. It helps to also promote better posture. Through deep breathing, we get the oxygen that's necessary for almost every chemical reaction in the body. It rids your body of carbon dioxide, and another benefit is that it stimulates the internal organs. Joseph Pilates called this the internal shower. This includes the heart, which pumps fresh blood throughout the body, carrying oxygen and nutrients to every cell and removing waste products. And you need that oxygen for energy and for burning calories. So what exactly is Pilates breathing? As we talked about before, breath is one of the 6 foundational principles of Pilates, and it's the most important. Pilates emphasizes long, full breaths, and Pilates is pretty much emphasis as a breathing pattern to keep the abdominals engaged, as well as activating the obliques and stabilizing the spine. The breathing pattern in Pilates is usually inhaling through the nose, directing the breath into the sides of the ribs, and expanding them laterally. The exhale comes through the mouth, closing the rib cage down and in. And that's the basis of lateral breathing, which we're going to talk about in a minute. The intensity of the breath should also match the intensity of the movement. Certain movements require a stronger breath, and other movements may call for something softer. It just really depends on what the desired outcome of the movement is. Often I find when I'm starting to train somebody who's new to Pilates, the breathing can be distracting to them. I always encourage them to breathe comfortably and focus on learning the movement, feeling it in their body. The breathing patterns will start to fall into place as the body becomes more familiar with the movement, and then you can coordinate the movement with the breath. So finding a happy medium on breathing during exercise is totally fine. So what is the difference between that deep diaphragmatic breathing and lateral breathing? We'll start with the deep diaphragmatic breathing. It's also referred to as deep belly breathing. It's kind of the best practice for general breathing in everyday life. It's where the breath is brought all the way into the body, allowing the belly to expand with the inhale and deflate with the exhale. We become accustomed through everyday life to shallow breathing, and that's just kind of breathing into just the upper part of the chest. It creates tension in the other parts of the body. It can lead to fatigue. It can lead to dry mouth. It can also aggravate respiratory problems. It may even lead to cardiovascular issues. We tend to inhale through the mouth, hold our breath, and take in less air. Our breathing patterns have shifted over time as a reaction to things like environmental stressors, temperature, pollution, noise, and other forms of anxiety. So it keeps the body in the cyclical state of stress. In other words, our stress causes a shallow breathing, and our shallow breathing causes a stress. And over time, this leads to panic attacks, or things like neck and shoulder pain, headaches, or even an increased risk of injury. So in Pilates, it is important to utilize all the breathing space available to us, not just the upper chest. So we're going to discuss those two slightly different breathing styles that we talked about earlier. Deep diaphragmatic breathing and lateral breathing. So we'll start with deep diaphragmatic breathing. It's a pattern that relaxes the abdominal muscles during inhalation and exhalation. Really not the optimal breathing pattern for Pilates, but as we talked about a little bit earlier, it's good for everyday life. It's where you want to really get those abdominals to start to be engaged. Try this brief exercise for diaphragmatic breathing in your body. First, as you're sitting or laying down, place your hands on your low belly and let your abdominals expand into your hands. Next, you're going to exhale and empty the air while watching your hands draw into your waist. Take a few more breaths and feel the rise and fall of the belly. And then breathe deeply and comfortably without forcing or overexpanding the lungs. And just continue to do this a few times until you really get that feel for that nice deep belly breathing. Lateral breathing is one of the techniques used in the Pilates exercises, and its focus is on drawing the breath upward and out of the low belly. So this breath is redirected into the back of the body and the sides of the rib cage. It's used in Pilates exercises, and it's focused in a way of training the abdominal muscles that makes it impossible to allow the belly to rise with the inflow of air. And it teaches us to expand our rib cage and back to allow for that fuller intake of air. As the focus is on the lateral expansion of the rib cage, while maintaining a consistent inward pull of the deep abdominal muscles during inhalation and exhalation, lateral breathing helps to establish that good form for beginners, as well as advancing the progress for more advanced levels of Pilates exercises. So we're going to give lateral breathing a try. It's slightly different from the deep diaphragmatic breathing that we did before. So again, you can sit comfortably or lay down. And place your hands this time on the sides of your body, around your rib cage. You're going to want to take a deep breath through your nose into the sides and back of your body. Feel your ribs pushing your hands outward as you inhale. As you exhale through your mouth, feel the ribs contract as your hands draw back towards each other. And you want to repeat this breathing pattern several times until you feel the ribs expanding and contracting. You can try a variation with this exercise with a resistance band, just holding the band wrapped around the lower part of your rib cage and hold the band in front of your chest. You'll feel the expansion of the ribs with your breathing as the band stretches. Knowing how to breathe well will keep your abdominals contracted and will give you additional support, like a corset, to protect your spine throughout an exercise. Really, in Pilates, in Joseph's words, Pilates is a complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit. So working with the breath also brings that natural rhythm to a movement and really can increase the efficacy of the experience of a workout. The breath in Pilates leads to movement and gives it power. The inhale is supported by the extensor muscles that we discussed in the first podcast, What is the Core? And helps to promote an overall length and width. If you imagine a cylinder getting longer and rounder, the exhalation, which generally will require the most exertion, takes advantage of the natural contraction of the muscles. And you can think of it as a gentle lengthening squeeze of the trunk against the spine that helps to lengthen and decompress the spine. In Pilates, there's some other breathing patterns to note. One is a set breathing pattern, and there's many Pilates exercises that have a set breathing pattern where an inhalation occurs during some phase of the movement and an exhalation occurs during another phase. A good example of this would be the Pilates roll-up. So during the Pilates roll-up, you would take an inhale to prepare for the exercise. And as you start to come into the exercise and rolling up, you're going to exhale. That gives you the power to kind of start to bring your body into the movement. And as you come into that full roll-up position, you take a nice inhale to, again, initiate the movement, and exhaling to roll yourself back down. So that helps to really control the movement. It also is important to help keep you from holding your breath during an exercise, particularly exercises where a lot of effort's involved. This leads to dizziness, lightheadedness, and increased muscle tension. It can also elevate your blood pressure. So you want to really be careful of holding your breath during exercise in Pilates or any exercise. Many Pilates movements may have a given breath pattern to influence the muscles being recruited. So for example, an exhalation may activate your deep transverse abdominis muscles during a movement. Breath patterns can also be used to establish the rhythm or dynamic of a particular Pilates exercise. And in Pilates, each exercise has a different rhythm and flow. Some are performed slowly and smoothly, and others are meant to be more rapid and forceful. It just really depends on what the movement is, what the purpose of the movement is, and the breath will follow. Another breathing pattern is active breathing, and it's a special case when breathing may dynamically influence the exercise. For example, a good one is the 100. In the 100, the breath is pushed out more forcefully during exhalation, and it's got a percussive emphasis. So you're going to inhale for 5 counts through the mouth, and you're going to exhale for 5 counts through the nose. The second type of breathing pattern that we're going to talk about is active breathing. It's a special case in which the breathing may dynamically influence the exercise. For example, in exercises such as the 100, the breath is pushed out more forcefully during exhalation and with a percussive emphasis as the abdominals are contracted in stages. And there's 5 beats during your inhalation and 5 beats during your exhalation, and each of those beats will represent a contraction of those muscles. A third example is percussive breathing. And this is a breathing method that was developed by Ron Fletcher, and he's an early student of Pilates. He explained that breath shapes a movement and defines its dynamic. So he believed that percussive breathing was not meant to be forceful, but instead offered a sound and rhythm and a breath that fluctuated with each exercise. So if you think of it like you're inflating a balloon and releasing air through a small opening in a steady, constant stream, it gives that breath to the rhythm of the movement. Breathing serves so many important functions. Most importantly is the exchange of gases, ridding the body of carbon dioxide and taking in oxygen. In addition to basic physiological needs, breathing can help improve our posture, increase our energy levels, improve our mood, among many other things. Breathing is also really important to help with relaxation and calming of the mind and body, which leads to decreased stress and improved health. So I hope that you have a little bit of a better understanding about breathing and the benefits of breathing for Pilates, and what the differences are between our deep diaphragmatic breathing and lateral breathing, and how breathing patterns can enhance Pilates exercise based on the movement and its purpose. And we know that different types of breathing can vary by the exercise, as in the case of the 100, and are used to recruit those deeper muscles of the core, sometimes such as that transverse abdominis area. To sum it up, in the words of Joseph Pilates, breathing is a first act of life and the last. And, above all, learn how to breathe correctly. Thank you for joining me today for this episode of the Corecast. I look forward to talking with you next week. Please be sure to follow and subscribe to the Corecast on the platform of your choice, and follow me on my website, www.core-fit.com, and that's core with a K, or on Instagram at core_fitness_AZ, or on YouTube at Core Fitness AZ. Have a great week. See you next time.